There are several characteristics of sociological thinking. So let's start with characteristic one. Sociologists look for general patterns in the behavior of particular people. Society shapes individuals into groups like children, teenagers, or adults, the healthy and the sick, the rich and the poor. And each of these groups impact the life experiences of individuals in society. This can range from what kind of education is available to people, to what food they eat, even to whether or not they experience life in positions of power in society or on the margins. Seeing the world sociologically includes realizing how the general categories we fit into can shape our experiences. So we could ask, how do our parents' jobs impact the level of education that we receive? If I was to poll this class right now, or any university class, data shows that we would find an overrepresentation of students whose parents also attended university because educational patterns are intergenerational. So in the context of COVID-19, what does looking for the general in the particular look like? When looking at society in the midst of this pandemic crisis, sociologists look for patterns among individuals who might be acting differently to the general population. So we might ask, who isn't wearing masks when they are asked to, or who's deviating from the norm by going against government regulations? For example, this could include an analysis of individuals who have protested lockdown, as was done in this Vox article in April 2020, which I've included a link to here. The article links anti-lockdown protests to race in the context of the United States. And this brings us to our second characteristic of sociological thinking, which is seeing society in our everyday lives. Sociologists call this using the sociological imagination. In 1959, sociologist C. Wright Mills wrote the book The Sociological Imagination, and he defined this imagination as the ability to see the relationship between individual experiences and the larger society. Mills writes, quote, "Nowadays, people often feel that their private lives are a series of traps. They sense that within their everyday worlds, they cannot overcome their troubles. Yet people do not usually define the troubles they endure in terms of historical and institutional change." So Mills wrote that in 1959, but I think that it's never been more relevant than today under this global pandemic. Mills is asking us to put our individual experiences in historical and institutional context. And chapter 1 is called The Promise. Mills is promising us the relevance of this form of thought, that we can understand our lives better if we understand what is happening in the larger society. And if we understand the root causes of the challenges that we face, that can equip us better to act with a broader perspective on what would actually address the challenges. So today, we're going to use the sociological imagination to understand how our experiences of COVID-19 are being shaped by what is happening in the world. So for example, an individual may have lost their job in mid-March 2020. And while the individual might at first feel that this personal experience of being laid off is an isolated event, the sociological imagination enables us to understand how this event was shaped by social, historical, and cultural context. This personal experience, of course, has been shaped by nationally enforced lockdown, social distancing laws, companies shutting down, and global recession, as well as the type of industry that a person is in. And as we'll see this term, their social location related to gender, class, race, and so on.